نحمده سبحانه ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفوته من خلقه وحبيبه، قد بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في سبيل دينه حتى أتاه اليقين. فاللهم اجزه عنا وعن والدينا وعن الإسلام والمسلمين خير ما جازيت به نبيا عن قومه ورسولا عن أمته. اللهم أحينا على ملته وأمتنا على شرعته وأوردنا حوضه واسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة هنيئة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا. اللهم آمين. We have been addressing the issue of how to relate to the Quran since the beginning of Ramadan and a couple of weeks before. And today we are going to talk about some elements about the objectives for which the Quran is sent down. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send the Quran? We talked about the collection of the Quran, the compilation of the Quran, the writing and documentation of the Quran, and how different it is from the compilation of or the writing and authoring of other previous scriptures. So today we are going to talk about the objectives. Why did Allah send the Quran? When I read the Quran, what do I look for in the Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ. This Quran guides to what is best, what is most upright, what is most straight. يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ. يَهْدِي from hada. And the word hada means that it gave you the path, from which comes the word hadi. Similar to it, the word sharia and shara'a, to establish a straight path, a path. Sharia, from it also comes the word shari', which is a street or a path. So the guidance of the Quran gives you not only general direction, but it gives you a specific path. And this path is the best. يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ. What else? What is the function of the Quran? وَيُبَشِّرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا كَبِيرًا. And it gives good promise, glad tidings for the believer who believes in Allah and the latter day of judgment, that they have a great reward awaiting for them. This is part of what the Quran does. In terms of guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us two types of guidance. Two types of guidance. Guidance which means to direct you, and guidance which means to support you. The example that I believe quite obvious to all of us is, if you ask a policeman or anybody for direction, but specifically a policeman, and he tells you take 95 north, but instead you go 95 south, if you call the same policeman to ask for further guidance, would he be willing to help you? If you go in the opposite direction of what he tells you, no, he would be frustrated. He would think you don't understand English or you don't want to follow direction. So Allah gives us the guidance of general direction. But then further guidance comes to those who follow the initial guidance. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. Those who follow this initial guidance accept Allah, accept the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, accept all prophets for that matter, accept the Quran, and accept the guidance of all the prophets and believes in the angels, in the day of judgment, in the qadr and the qada of Allah, and accepts those, this one will be given further guidance. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. What does it mean, آتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ? آتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ means to give them the sense of responsibility and the appreciation of Allah, that they would never want to displease Allah doing or saying anything. وَزَادَهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ زَادَهُمْ هُدًى وَآتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. This is part of what the Quran does. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says further in practice of the Quran, He says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who strove in our path, we will further guide them into our ways, our path, our guidance. So the Quran describes for us the primary function of the Quran is to guide us. What does the Quran guide us to? The Quran guides us to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. Allah invites everybody to the abode of peace, which is shortly called paradise. To be with the prophets, with the guided ones, with the righteous ones, with the martyrs, with people that you love to be with and love to be close to. So here is the responsibility. If you live by the guidance of the prophets in this life, if you surround yourself with guided, righteous people in this life, the likelihood is in the hereafter, you will be gathered with them. If you love them, surround yourself with those righteous ones, you will be with them. The Prophet ﷺ says, مَنْ أَحَبَّ قَوْمًا حَشَرَهُ اللَّهُ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. مَنْ أَحَبَّ قَوْمًا حَشَرَهُ اللَّهُ مَعَهُمْ. If you love a certain group of people, and here is a secret that Allah is giving us. What is the secret? The secret is, in the hereafter, you will be with people that you spent your life with. I want you to absorb this one and digest it. The people you surround yourself with in this life, you are going to be with them in the hereafter. The people you follow, the people you laugh when they laugh, you cry when they cry, you copy their fashion, you copy their way of life. When they invite you, you respond to their invitation. When they want you to do something, you do what they want. Those are the ones you are going to be with in the hereafter. Which means what? You have 100% control over your destiny in the hereafter. It is not a secret. Some of us unfortunately believe, because it's all up to Allah, which is true, that I have no control over it. No, you do. In fact, not only do you have control over it, it is with your hands that you craft and shape your fate in the hereafter. بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. What your hands have earned will determine your fate in the hereafter. Whether it is justice or injustice, righteous or wicked, good or bad, following the Quran or going against the Quran, it's all up to you. In this life, it's freedom without accountability. In the hereafter, it is accountability and no freedom. لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن ورضي له قولا. Nobody will talk in the hereafter except the ones that Allah would permit and would accept what they say. So it is not like this life, I can cheat and I can lie and I can fabricate facts from my own head. The hereafter, nothing will be uttered but truth, whether it is for you or against you. So we can do anything in this life, but we have to understand that what we do here, the people we live with, we are going to relive again with the same people in the hereafter. So the places you go are going to determine, the people you live with are going to determine your fate. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ. Hold yourself in patience. Don't be frustrated with righteous ones, and when you go with the laughing, funny, wicked ones, you're happy. You're happy. But when it comes to your closest brothers who pray next to you, you're fighting. اصبر نفسك. Hold yourself in patience with those who are praying and praising Allah by early daytime and by the late daytime, by the evening, in the morning and in the evening. We need to hold ourselves patience together, because this is our path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are each other's test. But the answer is not to frustrate each other. The answer is to help each other be patient and to hold ourselves in patience. واصبر نفسك مع الذين يدعون ربهم بالغداة والعشي يريدون وجهه. They only desire one thing and one thing only, the pleasure of a look of mercy from Allah. يريدون وجهه. They want to attract Allah's attention, whose attention is never distracted, but they want to show Allah, not to show people. They want to prove to Allah, not to show people. Showing is riya, and riya is a companion of nifaq. Riya is showing off, and showing off is part of the attitude of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. But the believer, he only does what he does to show Allah the best that he has. When Allah tests us, He wants us to extract the best, the gold out of our spirits, out of our heart, and present it to Allah. Yet, we still need to ask Him for acceptance. Don't take Allah's acceptance for granted. Why? Why shouldn't I take Allah's acceptance for granted when I pray as He says, when I fast as He says, when I make Hajj and Umrah and Zakah as He orders, right? Why shouldn't I be certain that Allah has accepted? Well, you can be certain if you meet His requirement. What is His requirement? His requirement is إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah only accepts from those who live a righteous life and try to avoid displeasing Allah. This avoidance of displeasing Allah is what taqwa is all about. To protect yourself from His displeasure. To make sure that you are living for Him, you're talking to please Him, or you are silent to please Him. You're behaving to please Him, or you are not doing nothing to please Him. So you have to be careful that your life is a life of taqwa. That's why the Quran is described in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah as Hudan lil Muttaqeen. It is guidance for those who want to avoid displeasing Allah. Allah will show you in the book how to please Him, and what if you do, you would displease Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as we look in the Quran, we must look for further guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of us are falsely satisfied with the fact that I believe in the Quran. I don't have time to read it, but I believe in the Quran. So you believe in the Quran, you must study the Quran. You must follow the Quran. You say, oh yeah, I do the 5 pillars. And isn't this enough? The man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, do I have to do any more prayer than the fard? He said, no. He said, okay. And how about zakah? Do I need to have? No, don't pay more than zakah. That's okay. How about umrah? Yes. How about hajj? How about everything else? Fine. Then when the man says, أَفْعَلُهُنَّ وَلَا أَزِيد, I would do those and I will not do any more, the Prophet ﷺ made a comment. And the comment is, أفلح إن صدق. He will be a winner if he could fulfill all what he had promised. Why should it be difficult to fulfill this promise when it's easy? Pray 5 times a day, fast Ramadan, pay your zakah, make your hajj, and you're done. Because for every ibadah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a protective fence against it. So, sunan as-salah, tahmi as-salah. When you do the sunan, you protect the fard. When you do sadaqah, you protect doing the zakah. When you do the umrah, you protect the hajj. When you fast voluntarily, you protect the fasting of Ramadan. What do we mean by protecting? If you do the sunan in any ibadah, the nawafil, the extra ibadah, when you are tired or when you are sick or when you are very, very debilitated, maybe you will skip a sunnah. But if you are living only by the fard, protecting the fard without the sunnah is almost next to impossible. It is like in real life, if people think that providing food and drink and clothing to my family is what I am required to do, and they ignore the rest of the rights of the family, when they come short, they are going to miss the foundation, the basics. Those are going to be gone. So for everything that Allah tells us to do, there is a protective zone around it. The sunan of the prayer protect the fard prayer. The sunan of fasting, they protect the fard of fasting. The sadaqah protects your paying of the zakah, which is mandatory. Okay? So we have to be careful not to abandon what we think is less important, because it's meant for a purpose. So when the Prophet ﷺ says, Aflaha, he made a condition, in sadaq, which means it is difficult to do all the fara'id all the time without sunan and never miss a faridah. Think about it. Think about it. Those days when you used to do all the fara'id and you were okay, and then some time comes, you are stressed, you don't have enough time or energy, or you are tired or sick, and the fara'id go by the way. They go by the side way. So aflaha in sadaq is a hallmark on that we should not take a hadith and chop it, take the part we like and leave the conditions for what we don't want to understand. Likewise, in dealing with the Quran, is it enough to have the gist of what the Quran is about? The Quran is about being godly, right? The Quran is about receiving the guidance of Allah and following the same. The Quran is about being nice to other human beings. The Quran is about being responsible for those who depend on you for anything. The Quran is about being honest when you do anything. The Quran is about saying truth, standing for justice. There's a lot that the Quran is about. So the question is it enough that I have this as a concept in my head and not read or study the Quran to know? No, it is not. Because even establishing justice, it requires the definition of justice. What is just in the eyes of Allah? How do you establish justice? What are the conditions for justice? Where do you get those if not from the Quran? If not from further the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So to deal with the Quran comprehensively, we don't only need to study the Quran, we need to be companions of the Quran, Ahlul Quran. Allahumma ja'alna min Ahlul Quran, alladhina hum ahluka wa khassatuk. So Ahlul Quran are people whose heart is attached to the book. Their heart is never settled without the Quran. If they miss one day reading of the Quran, they miss the whole day. It is a day lost. But many of us, unfortunately, we don't read the Quran. We don't spend time with the Quran. And if we read the Quran and we don't understand what the Quran is saying, we do not go for tafsir or explanation or translation or many other translations to see if the meaning is captured that I read is right. So the Quran is our best investment of our life. Why? Because in the Quran is our fate. The Quran will determine our fate. If we let the Quran lead us into a righteous life, we lead a righteous life and we end up in a righteous place in the hereafter. If we throw the Quran behind our back, it keeps pushing us towards what we like, our whims and desires. Where do these take us? They take us to the other place. May Allah protect us all from hellfire. So, what we need to focus on when we talk about our relationship with the Quran is first to understand the value of the Quran. I always use this example. Many of you might have heard it several times. When you get a letter from someone you love most, do you just skim through it? Do you wait to open it, or do you open it as soon as you pick it from the mailbox? Right? Oh, that's an email. That is a letter from my mom, a letter from my dad. Right? You want to know their news. You want to know what they tell you. Right? So you open it immediately and you keep reading it walking to your apartment. Right? What about the Quran? It's the word of Allah, specifically to each human being, not only to Muslims. The Quran is sent down for humanity. Rahmatan lil alameen, even beyond humans to the jinn. Do you know, when you sit down and read the Quran at your home with voice, the angels and the believing jinn will surround you because they love to listen to the Quran. They love to listen to the Quran. And the Quran tells us that the jinn used to gather around the Prophet ﷺ when he used to recite the Quran, and they take the message to their friends who were not there, their families, their tribes. And they tell them, إِنَّا سَمِعْنَا قُرْآنًا عَجَبًا يَهْدِي إِلَى الرُّشْدِ فَآمَنَّا بِهِ وَلَن نُشْرِكَ بِرَبِّنَا أَحَدًا. We've heard a fantastic, mesmerizing book. And it gives us guidance. And we are following it. We will never associate anyone with Allah. Do we respond to the Quran in any way similar to our brothers from the jinn? Our believing brothers from the jinn. They are our brothers, they are our friends. Why? Because they are running on the same path, in the same marathon. We are all racing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sabiqu, sari'u, race unto Allah, race unto the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, before we even talk about the purposes and the objectives of the Quran, we need to establish the value of the Quran. We know in real life, if you value something, you're willing to pay anything for it. That's how we buy anything. If you don't value, you don't pay the price they ask for, right? What is the price that Allah is asking? The price that Allah is asking for paradise is submission and obedience. Simple. To submit to His words and to be obedient to His commands. Where do we find Allah's commands? It's in the Quran. Where do we find how to practice the Quran? It is in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the love of the Quran and the commitment to the Quran and the best way to study, learn, and make da'wah to the Quran. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وبعد. Do you know, brothers and sisters, the word Quran itself, what it means? It comes from the root word qara'a. What is the first word that was sent down in the Quran? Iqra. Do you know those who are valued the most in the eyes of Allah? It is the scholars of the Quran. قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. Do you think they are equal? Those who study, learn and understand, and those who do not? Of course they don't. They are not equal. So the word Quran is a صيغة مبالغة. It is an excessive application of the root word قراءة, to read, which means the word the Quran, which is a noun, it means the book that is read the most. The book that is most read and read the most. So we can say the Quran is really indeed the book that's read the most by the preponderance of Muslims all over the world reading the Quran in their prayer. The Quran is the most read book in the world. But what about me? Is it the most book read by me? What about my family? What about my children? What about people that I come in contact with, my friends, my co-workers? If we take this word, the Quran, and minimize it into being a book on the shelf, we are only minimizing our own value, not the value of the Quran. Allah gave it the value that it is His word. If we treat it as a printed book that is put on a shelf or kept for, grievances and funerals and all of that, we are not minimizing the Quran. Nobody could minimize the Quran. We are minimizing our own value in the eyes of Allah. So the value that we establish for ourselves is only high as long as we give the Quran the high value that Allah told us it is of this high value. It is the only book that can secure you into paradise if you follow it, if you study it. So now, my question, my suggestion, my urgent to all of you is read the Quran. Read as the Quran itself tells us, read. Read this book, study this book, and enjoy the pleasure that you get in your heart when you read the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, hearts become content. Contentment is all what we are asking for. As humans, we call it happiness. But happiness verges on the side of euphoria, being happy, jumpy, But contentment means calm. Contentment means accepting Allah, accepting His qada, accepting His rizq, accepting His qadr, accepting your children, accepting your luck in marriage, accepting the rizq that Allah has given you, and seeking to get more. No problem with that. But accept what you have, offer gratitude, Allah will give you more. لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran how He would like to relate to us, to bless us, and to shower us with His mercy, and to include us by showing us the light of the Quran in this life. Then it turns into the light of the Quran in our graves and the light of the Quran on the straight path in the hereafter, until you get into paradise and you're blessed. May Allah bless us all and all Muslims with this, to be blessed with the most pleasant thing you will ever experience, to see the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the utmost reward, the highest reward. The one that has always been, we have been barred from seeing Him in this life, but we worship Him, we obey Him, we love Him. On the hereafter, in paradise, may Allah make us among the people of paradise, you will see Him, inshallah. You will see Him. Rest assured, you will. And this is the utmost reward and the maximum pleasure anyone could ask for. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among the people of the Quran whose hearts are hanging to the Quran and are attached to the Quran. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا، ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقوتنا ما أحييتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا، وإذا أردت بقومنا فتنة فنجنا منها يا مولانا غير خزايا ولا مفتونين ولا مبدلين ولا مغيرين. اللهم اجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا وشفاء صدورنا وجلاء همومنا وأحزاننا. اللهم علمنا منه ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا. اللهم اجعله لنا نورا في قلوبنا ونورا في بيوتنا ونورا في قبورنا ونورا لنا على الصراط. اللهم لا توفنا إلا وأنت راض عنا. اللهم أحسن عاقبتنا في الأمور كلها وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا ومن عذاب الآخرة. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم، فستذكرون ما أقول لكم، وأفوض أمري إلى الله، إن الله بصير بالعباد. وأقم الصلاة.